Welcome back to Hall of Fame College Football's Sooner Magic podcast live this morning. We're going to do a bit of a Monday morning quarterback kind of breakdown one more time, just what we saw in the spring game. Obviously, we had a little bit of a conversation about Jaren Kanak after the game the other night and what we heard from Dusty Dvoracek on the stream there. Look, I know a lot of people were upset about it. I hate it that it is the way it is for Jaren Kanak. I think he's a great athlete. I think he's a good kid. In the end, I think that what's going on in Norman is bigger than any one player or the fans' feelings when the fans expect as much as they do from this program. Brent Venables has been charged with winning a national championship without fail. Period, point blank. That's how it's supposed to be. If that's what you expect, then you have to know that what Dusty said isn't wrong. You really can't afford to be on the field much the way things are. Hey, what's up, Unc? And Chicken, what's up, Chicken? Look, I want to see the best for these Oklahoma program, and when he's making mistakes constantly, and it's been as long as it has been him in the program, and I get it. It takes time. This is a very hard, very, very tough defense to understand and pick up. And it takes some people longer than others. It just does. Some people, they pick it up quick. Some people don't pick it up at all. You know, it just is what it is. But what I would say is that I think if he's important to the program in a lot of ways, why not go ahead and give him a shot somewhere else? You know, and I don't care really where it is. Could be anywhere, you know. It just is what it is. If you remember Cam, come on. He wasn't good till his senior year. He didn't play till his senior year after he went to A&M. And that didn't mean he wasn't good. It meant that Baker was there, so he was on the bench. Let's not make it silly. Sooner. What's up, Sheila? Thanks for coming in. Look. I mean, we're talking about, Dusty comes on and says that stuff, and it's a thing that this guy played for a championship program. He played for Brent Venables. He knows exactly what he's talking about when it comes to this defense and what you're supposed to be doing. You know, it's not like this is and it's not like it's a huge surprise. If you go back and you watch, he had 10 tackles against, you can bring up the 10 tackles, right? Oh, Kenneth Murray. I was thinking you were saying K1, not K9. Sorry. Look, you bring up the 10 tackles, though, against Texas. Then go look at the BYU game. Then go look at a lot of the other games where he didn't play well against Kansas. He didn't play well against Oklahoma State. These are losses. When Kip got in there, he was taking on those blocks from the guards, stuff like that. This is a situation where it just is what it is. And again, look, if he's fine with staying around and being on the bench, okay. But I think that the more that these rooms fill up with talent, which you're seeing it continue to go, you're just continuing to see a recruiting machine here in Norman that they've been in the top 10 all three cycles. They're firmly in the top 10 in this cycle as well. And guess what? It's heavy with defensive talent. Heavy with defensive talent. You know, and that's all I would say about that. That's all I would say about that is just that it's like we were talking about when it comes to, and I would say the same with Javonte Barnes. You start thinking about what's going on with him. He was a healthy, basically a scratch from the spring game. And forgive me if I don't really buy into what Coach Venables said, that they just wanted to get some looks at other guys, because when you've got a guy that was hurt basically all of last year, you probably want to get a look at him if he's in your plans. And you've been seeing him the whole spring. So if that's the case, you want to see him in live action when the lights go back on and see what he looks like. He was a healthy scratch. He's in his uniform on the sideline, full helmet and pads, all that, and he doesn't play. My guess is he's probably the first odd man out in that backfield. And again, you got Taylor Tatum coming in. The guy is a different type of athlete. And so same thing with Kanak, though. You start looking at these position groups and the amount of talent that's there. Look, you kind of had to play the guy a little bit in the first year or so, and even last year. And, they wanted to go ahead and try to keep, Samuel Omosigo's red shirt. I'm sure the same with Lewis Carter. So he continued to do that. But now those guys seem to be picking it up. Samuel Omosigo made some mistakes the other day too. I'm not taking sides on any of this stuff. I don't care who plays. I want the best player to be in. So to me, it's pretty clear that this is going to be one of those situations where you start looking at Javonte Barnes, and he looked really good as a freshman, but there were times last year that, if he was hurt, I understand that. But that also made me wonder, why in the hell would they force him into that game, in the Bedlam game, in a time when, Gavin was looking the way he did, right off of a big run by Gavin. It just seemed weird to me, but it appears that, sometimes injuries have a mental hangover that lasts a while. And if that's what's going on and what's been going on with Javonte, maybe a change of scenery is important. Maybe that'll help him. And I'm a pro Javonte guy, man. I'm a Vegas guy too. That's where he's from. Know a lot about him. He was an amazing high school player. He's a good runner. He looked really good as a freshman. But something I heard on, I think Teddy and Gabe were talking about it, that sometimes maybe as a freshman there you don't know enough to do anything but run hard, and that's what he definitely did that first year and looked good. He was a really good second punch behind it with Eric Gray. He was good for that. But if you look at the situation like with Marcus Majors in the last few years, injury after injury with him, he just never really looked the same anymore after that. I don't know how much of that was physical and how much that was mental, but it definitely was an issue. Yeah, and exactly. Tatum reminds you of Joe Mixon. He's that guy that his running style almost, it looks a little bit like AD's. He's got that long stride, but he can turn on a dime, and he's got an accelerator that just out of this world. He can put distance between himself and a fast cornerback as well. He just does that. Now, he was playing that. We're talking about high school, but he played in a big time high school program that plays big time teams week after week too. So it's not like he was always playing against dogs. This guy you can just tell there's differences in some of these guys. The same goes with Torrey Blaylock. That guy is going to be the real deal too. So you start looking at these next couple of years of who you have, and this is a great problem for Oklahoma. A great problem. But it means that there's going to be sacrifices along that roster. Yeah, he'd be I think he would too, man. I just do. And not for nothing, as much as I like Bauer Sharp and you know, the idea of what he's going to be as a tight end, I know that when he tried to block Ethan Downs, I mean, maybe that's a mismatch, and I'm sure it is. But, I mean, he blew him up. You know, and there's been a lot of talk about the tight ends and what they did or didn't do. I know Gabe kind of had a scathing on their show. He was had a little bit of a scathing talk about him on the show. I'm not too worried about the tight end so much right now. I think that, yeah, they got to get better. You've got a guy that's a converted quarterback playing tight end, and you've got a true freshman that could be a high school senior this year instead. He came out early in the spring, probably not quite there just yet, you know. Or was it Teddy that was going off on one of the two? Anyway, and on top of that, you have a guy that's coming in with some experience out of Baylor, and you know that wasn't there. He was out. You probably expect him to be the blocking tight end. Look, truth is, tight ends are a little bit different than what we're used to seeing them, you know, over the years. Very few of them are big-time blockers at this point. But, and to expect, you know, like I said, a converted tight end to put up much fight against a guy like Ethan Downs, who's a senior now and has been an all Big 12 selection. You know, it is what it is. The same, I think, with Devon Mitchell. I don't know that, I mean, he's big, he's strong, but he's also a true freshman. Like I said, he could be a high school senior right now. So, truth be told, that's kind of where we're at on that. Gonna need a year, but they better do all to keep him. I don't think he needs a year as far. Look, here's the thing. It's like, as I was saying about blocking, you don't see a ton of those guys making a bunch of blocks, but he's the kind of guy that is that kind of talented, can make a bunch of catches for you. And when you have 250 pounds, long arms, jump, yeah, you can teach him to play better tight end as far as blocking and get him better at that. But I don't think you want a red shirt. I think you got to have him out there, particularly if, you know, and hopefully, you know, you start seeing some of these upperclassmen do a little bit better, you know, when all's said and done. That's what you're hoping for. But I would agree with that. There's some, when I saw some of the video of him, and the thing is you've seen him in small samples. So the thing is it's, you know, it's kind of tough to judge it too much. But what I saw as far as the video was concerned on him, it almost looked like he was wearing heavy shoes or something, you know, like he hadn't quite, you know, grown into that just yet. But he's a big boy and he's definitely got talent. If he's good with, you know, with what happens, but I think that, again, a lot can happen. And with a lot of what we were saying the other day, and I'll say it again, is the expectation that these guys, particularly in their first spring, if they're coming in as early enrollees and stuff like that, for them to all of a sudden turn into just unbelievable and ready to go, skill position wise or wherever, it's a little much to expect. Now, I know we're seeing a lot out of David Stone, Jaden Jackson in particular, and these, you know, these safeties that are freshmen are just killing it. But, you know, I think that also there's the idea that you're going to have somebody that's ready to rock and roll right now. It's kind of tough to expect that. So we'll kind of wait and see what happens with it, you know? Yeah. Ugh. Hey, man, our boy Wurzy could kick one through there on the, you know, coming out of the stands and, you know, probably half drunk. No, just kidding. But, I mean, he went out there and popped one through there like it was nothing. There's some issues there. What I would tell you with that is what I said the other day. Guys, when it comes to that stuff and the special teams, it's been neglected for a long time. 15 practices, probably not going to be enough to get them on track. Okay. It's been neglected for far too long, until it becomes until it becomes a priority for all of them. And, you know, the way I was talking about it, you know, you look at some of these receivers that you could see possibly, you know, as they could end up in the portal. This is where, as the new coach, that you go and you find Jaquez Petaway and you're like, come be a returner. You know, make your mark there. Make them want to get you on the field because you are blowing it up as a returner or a gunner, whatever. But, you know, because you can, I mean, there's guys that find their way onto the field because of what they do in special teams. So this is what you do. You have to get out there, recruit those guys hard because that's your job. It can't be an afterthought. It can't. And that's what it's been. And you can thank Lincoln for that. That's how it was. He didn't give a shit about it. And he, you know, he still doesn't there at USC. But I remember the last question that got asked to him on that final press conference that he had after Bedlam that night was if there were any thoughts about hiring us a special teams coach. And it was no, absolutely not. He had no want to. Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that, JB. Yes, very similar. I mean, God, Jermaine Gresham. You talk about a stud. But that's the kind of player that he's going to be probably. You know? I think there's probably going to be a lot of growing for a lot of these guys, man. But 15 practices, again, is an awful short amount of time. We look at it, I mean, it was 15 practices. It was over a month. But so we look at it a little bit different. It's still 15 practices, and they're still learning their way with Schmitty and everything else and how to become a student and all that stuff. I mean, this is a different deal for freshmen, and it's why a lot of guys aren't ready right off the bat, right? It is. And when it comes to some of these other guys, I mean, look, though, when you have some of these guys that are as talented as they are, right? They're as talented as they are, and they start filling in these spots, and if Oklahoma's going to continue recruiting the way they are, and we have no reason to believe that they won't, that's why some of these positions, look, they got to get down to 85. They got to get down to 85. So the truth is there's going to be roster cuts. They're going to call them transfers, but they're going to be roster cuts, period. Sometimes they're going to leave on their own because they know that, you know, they don't really have a very good chance. If you look at what happened with Justin Harrington, it's not that I don't think that he could have played on this defense. He showed us the whole first half of the season before he got hurt that he can. Then Kendall Dobie took that spot, and he looked just as good. And then you've got other guys that they're expecting to probably play some cheetah. You know, Samuel Omosigo. Some of these other guys, and when you're still hurt, not ready to come back, and you see yourself falling down the depth chart, and you've got 1 year left, yeah, I would probably leave too. And if I'm Kanak, I might leave too because I got 2 years left to show what I can do in it, and maybe this just doesn't fit me well enough, and maybe I just need a change of scenery. I'm not saying he's not a great athlete, but I go back to what Damian Mackey said on K. Chris's show whenever they were on, him and Barry were on there, and he was talking about, I don't care about his 4.3 speed because he's slower than everybody else when he's out there because he's thinking. If you can't make that read and know what you're supposed to be doing, that's a problem, especially if you're playing middle linebacker. Well, that's a problem. You know, is what it is. Yeah, Jermaine was a stud, man. Special teams, go with Farmer Fran and do some laps. I love it. What up, Dez? What up, Dez? Yeah, I'm sure that's what you would think. Yes, sir. I got a question for you. Are they going to start Quinn? Or is everybody ready for them to go to the arch? Good to see you, Des. BB's doing a great job. All these freshmen look great. Yeah, I think so too, man. They're hiring guys, or they're recruiting these guys that are coming in here to do their thing. You know, they're kind of players. And this is where you start seeing a lot of these guys that are getting identified by OU coaches and recruiting and all that kind of stuff. And then all of a sudden they go from 3-star or 4, whatever, low in the 4s, their ranking is real low. All of a sudden they shoot up in the rankings, right? Saying PJ Adebawore, who, by the way, had 2 sacks in the spring game the other day. Good for him. It's good to see him kind of get there. Looked like he could have had a couple more. But it would have been, he was a 3-star when they offered him. He goes all the way to number 4 in the country overall. Number 4 overall on 247. So that was huge. I mean, it tells you that first of all, it tells you that these recruiting sites, they're not seeing all these kids. And there's a lot of kids that they're going to, fly under the radar a lot. They're quote unquote diamonds in the rough, but it's not because they're diamonds in the rough. It's because nobody's seen them. They're not going out there paying for a bunch of these camps to go to and stuff like that. Same with like Michael Hawkins. Don't tell me that guy wasn't a freaking very, very high 4 or even a 5-star caliber quarterback. His dad is a pro. His dad was a pro. He freaking runs a 4.3 and throws the ball like that and takes a team to the semifinals in 5A Texas, gets beat by Oak Cliff. And really, it was just because it wasn't because of him. He played very, very well. Dude had 55 total touchdowns to like 3 interceptions all season as a senior. Underrated. Underrated, period. That's all there was to it. But some of these guys are going to climb. They're going to climb up there high, and it's going to be what it is. And again, what I'm getting at is that a lot of these recruiting services, they're going to go off of each other, and one may or may not have seen them. And as I said before, look, think about Nigel Smith. You got to look at who is recruiting him more than anything else. Same thing with like Danny Okoye. But look at Nigel. He's getting recruited by Ohio State, Alabama, Texas A&M, OU, Penn State. He could have pretty much went anywhere he wanted to. Had he gone to Ohio State or even down with what's his name at Texas A&M, who's been bringing in 5-star after 5-star on the D line. But if he goes out there with the Godfather to Ohio State, then he's a 5-star. Guaranteed. At the very least, top 100. He just kind of stayed there, where he had been at. But I know that they offered Nigel 2 years before signing day. So it tells you that, he was the real deal all the time, and a lot of that, again, all I'm saying is, and you're still a blue chip athlete. You're a 4-star. It doesn't matter. You're top 150. That's great. But in the end, you still got to look at it in terms of they don't always get it right on these guys. And they are recruiting very, very well at Oklahoma. And the more these guys get in there, and if you think you're going to build a championship roster, then some of these guys are going to get cut. And you might fall in love with them as who they are and what they look like to you on film. But in the end, those coaches know more than we do about it. And Dvoracek probably wasn't saying anything that he hadn't heard in the building. Just saying. What? Can they give him a helmet, Mike? Who? Kanak? They can get, yeah, they could. They could. They got to tell you what to look for. This is a problem. Because what if they give you one read and then it gets, whatever it is a disguise from the offense and it's a different deal. It looks like one thing, it isn't. You see something pre-snap and it's different post-snap a lot of times. Dvoracek said that they couldn't afford to have him on the field. The mic was hot when he said it. So Yeah. Have they not? Huh. Surprising. That's surprising. I don't know. Maybe there's something to it. Maybe there's something to that. I've been feeling that way since last year. I know that I didn't think that there's been a lot of talk about it. There's been a lot of talk about it. But no, not everybody. Not everybody does. Not everybody. Yeah. Well, the factor is if they're not recruiting him, I don't know that if you don't have him, you don't have him. You know, kind of odd though. If he's ranked that high and they're not on him, there could be a reason for that though. Maybe there's something going on. And especially in view of the fact that he's an Oklahoma kid, that makes very little sense to me because Bixby's one of the best programs in the state. And Coach Venables has said they have to dominate Texas or Oklahoma recruiting. Texas too, but Oklahoma recruiting for sure. Yeah, that could possibly be it. Maybe there's something going on there. Maybe his family's Okie light. Who knows? You know? Yeah, I don't know. It makes you wonder. Definitely makes you wonder what's going on, right? But yeah, I mean, it kind of surprises me a little bit. Something I'll have to ask. I'll have to look and see. Let's see. You said he's number 19 overall? Or in this? He's not the number 19 overall recruit on On3. I'm looking at it right here. I don't see him here. I'm going to have to look him up because I hadn't even heard about him. Now, I don't freaking go crazy about recruiting like some people do either, but he's a 4-star on On3. It looks like he's almost locked up by Auburn at this point. But no, Oklahoma's definitely not on his radar, or he's not on their radar, doesn't appear. Offensive tackle, though, 6'5" and a half, 275. Look, there's gotta be a reason that if as big as he is and he's a tackle and he's an Oklahoma kid and Big Bill's not on him, that doesn't make much sense to me. Okay, the industry. Okay, you're saying it's not showing him on the number 19 national, huh? Yeah, it is showing him on his regular. I see it. Yep. Yeah, I don't get it then. But I mean, a 4-star offensive tackle is pretty big. I mean, we're talking about a guy that's already 275 and he's 6'6", basically. It's a good question. I'm gonna have to ask the recruiting guys, see what they think. He's originally from Missouri. Okay. Again, he's going to Bixby now, though. But it looks like here's the thing, and look, this is another one of the things I think about. I've how many times have I said you got to look at his other offers outside of Auburn and A&M? His next highest up there is Tech, then Nebraska, then Illinois. You know, as far as who's in line to get him, Kansas State, Mizzou, TCU. They're all. I mean, none of these are look like they're very high up on the list. Oregon offered him, and so did Tennessee. It looks like Arkansas, but none of the big boys. Texas, Oklahoma, Georgia, Ohio State, none of them have offered them. You know what I mean? Again, Notre Dame has, Cincy has, TCU. I don't know. Maybe there's something that Big Bill sees that On3 doesn't. If they're just looking at measurables, because a lot of times that's what happens. Maybe that's what it is. Yeah, I'm excited about that. That was something I was going to bring up, Greg. Was obviously Branson. Yeah, Branson from SMU. Look, man, that's a big pickup. In view of the fact, especially that the biggest concern right now for Oklahoma coming into this season is going to be the offensive line because of how new it is. Now, I would say that what we saw in this spring game should give you at least some hope moving forward, because again, 15 practices in, we've got a bunch of kids on that D line that are animals, and they held their own for the most part. For everything that we heard about Joshua Bates not looking very good, whatever, they put up some, and obviously the thing is you can't look at a ton of the numbers because of you've got to look at who they were going up against and stuff like that. But the first team offense moved the football, not just through the air, on the ground. You saw some good runs by Sawchuk and Hicks. I was excited about that. You saw some fight from that offensive line. So, but yeah, it's a big pickup. He was the guy in the portal that everybody wanted on the O-line. No doubt about it. No doubt about it. Yeah. Yeah. Some of them are. The more I look at it, here's what I would tell you about that. I don't know how tight Oklahoma is with On3. I think that On3 does a good job with certain programs, but I also think that they're biased right away in some terms. At least we definitely know that their owner is automatically going to believe what a coach says from a certain program, particularly somebody like Ohio State. They talk, you've seen guys that are ranked really high as long as they're going to Georgia or Ohio State or somewhere like that, and then they choose somewhere else and they plummet, right? You saw it with DJ Lagway last year. As long as he was on Clemson's radar, he was way up there. Then he shot way down. Then he shot even further down over the Elite 11 thing, but which was stupid in view of the fact of the way that he played as a senior. But once he played, and then by the time it was all said and done, he was the number one quarterback in the country. But, so and a lot of it, again, a ton of it is very, a little sketchy, but it's, it's all in the eye of the beholder. I know that I trust the coaching staff of this program more than I'm going to trust some scout, right? I don't know the scouts. I don't know who they are. But let's just say even somebody that I mean, former guys like, what's old guy's name that was at On3. Now he has his own channel or whatever, or his own recruiting deal or whatever. It's just one of those. What the hell is that guy's name? Shit. He was talking all kinds of smack about Caleb Williams and his dad and all that stuff last year. Pharrell. Do I think he knows what he's talking about somewhat? Yeah. Do I trust him more than I trust coaches? No. No, I don't. Hey, what's up, Neil? Good morning, Jason. Swinging by to say, hey, check out tomorrow night. Yes, we will definitely be on here tomorrow night. Thank you for the super chat, sir. Have a wonderful day. And Mars Jans, my man. JB, let me say hello to everybody in here while we're at it here. Ryman Lemon came in to say something early, Coach. Then we got Unk and Jonathan Fazika, Sheila Smith, Purple Orca, Chicken, Factors Featured, JB, our boy JB, MF, Purple Orca, Dez, our boy at Texas. Who else we got? Who else? Of course, Neil. Thank you. And Mars Jams. Thanks, guys, for coming in. We appreciate it. Yeah, man, but that's big. And then, you know, as far as having, you got Jaren Hatchett that's going to be good to go and getting released so that he can start practicing and getting ready for the season as well in this coming up here in the next month or so, from what I understand. He'll be ready to go by the season getting started. I don't know what's going to end up happening with some of the other injuries, but you certainly weren't at full strength. You know, you didn't have the other kid in there. There's a few guys that are missing, guys. That's the thing about it. And then plus you're probably in a situation where, like Jacob Sexton, he was playing guard a lot the other day. You know, I'm not sure what I think about the Brown kid that played at tackle. It almost feels to me like he's not really the guy, you know. That at least not what we thought he was anyway. But maybe, you know, give him more time with Big Bill and he can mold him into what he sees him as. Because, again, you know, maybe he's just not, he hadn't figured it all out yet either. And in 15 practices and all that stuff as well. You would hope that somebody who's already been a starter somewhere else will be ready to rock. But, you know, changing the offense completely, you know, and everything else, and the way that they've kind of run things, I think that's something else that we hadn't really talked a ton about when we're talking about this. But if there's going to be a big change in what Seth Luttrell, Joe John are doing from the offense that Jeff Lebby ran, which was very high in running, you know, the zone blocking, you know, a lot of zone blocking where you don't really know where you're going, right? I think a lot of that has to do with it, right? A lot of it will have to do it. And if you're changing up the blocking scheme because of the way that Seth and Joe John are going to run it, that could have an effect on these guys as well. You know, we're just going to have to wait and see. On 3 sucks. I'll be on there talking shit. I'll be on their board talking shit, and guess what? They will talk shit back. They definitely do. Shannon Terry talks a lot of shit back. Apparently, he kind of went after High Top because High Top and them took him to task on the whole DJ Lagway thing. And then there was the kid that he had. It was a running back that had committed to Florida. And when before he committed to Florida, he was a top 100 anyway. I don't think he was a 5-star, but he was a top 100 guy. Then he commits to Florida and he dropped like 200 spots, right? Then later on, he ends up flipping his commitment to Georgia and he shoots up the freaking recruiting rankings again. And it had happened with a bunch of them, and they were talking about it and kind of called him out on the show, and he pops up in there, or maybe he said something on a tweet. He ended up getting him on the show. The guy admitted that when somebody like Brian Hartline says that, you know, what was the example he was given, that there was a kid that like had fallen asleep in a class or fallen asleep during a meeting or something like that was going on at something, and Hartline didn't like him all of a sudden because of that. And so he goes from a 5-star to a 4-star. Well, everybody knows that Brian Hartline recruits the best receivers in the country. I think that Marvin Harrison Jr. is the best receiver that he's recruited, period. The rest of those guys, as good as they're supposed to be, I mean, they talk about how great they are. Since Hartline got there, I don't think they've had the best receivers. I think they've had one that were. Zach Smith was a better evaluator of talent there than Brian is, I think. Or maybe he was a better coach. whatever it is, why he trusted in Brian Hartline so much, I'm not quite sure. You know, when it comes to Larry Johnson, he's coached 16 first-team All-Americans on the defensive line. I can see bumping up your rating of the guy if this guy likes him, right? I can see that. As far as what we were talking about down at A&M, the guy, I mean, what, they had 6 or 7 in the 2-year period, 5-star defensive line guys. Which one of them has stepped up and been that dude so far? Right? We always talk about Hicks. He's still a second teamer there. I mean, again, it's hit and miss. It's hit and miss, guys. Yeah. Derek Young and staff puts out a ton of content, and it's well done too. But I like you, Jason. I'm a Fitz guy over at Power Cat. Yeah, but I don't think that Fitz is really out there doing a ton of that evaluating and stuff like that either. I'm a fan of. I actually like On3's content. I just don't know that I trust their recruiters, you know, or their evaluators. I like their content though. I think JD Piquel's cool. You know, I like those guys. I think all of them are good. We'll see. Smart Turner's good. He is. But I'm saying which one of them has turned out to be an All-American type that, you know, the 5-star first round, you know, guaranteed first rounder, you know. I agree with you that Shamar's good. I think that Dimby's good. Brownlow Dindy, whatever, however you say his name. I think DJ Hicks is going to be good. But right now, he hasn't shown that he's that dude just yet. Right? That's all I'm saying. Yeah, Nolan, I guess. Has he, though? I don't know. He moved on to Ole Miss, yes? I think he's at Ole Miss now. We'll see. Yeah, I don't know. All I'm saying is I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that it's definitely subjective, first of all, right? And if you believe in your defensive line coach, which I think you have to believe in Todd Bates, I think that you would say that you agree with like a Bo Davis, wouldn't you, on how he's seeing things? I don't know that. I know that you don't think he's a great recruiter, Des, but you know. Yeah, well, that's surefire first rounders. Yeah, he's going. You think, okay, Shamar's probably going in the first. No, Walter Nolan's probably going in the first. I think you're right. Yeah, okay. Fine. Again, not all of these guys are. I don't think there's a ton of difference though. And I would tell you that when you look at, you know, some of the guys that they don't have rated as high, like a Jaden Jackson, he's a starter already, day one at Oklahoma, and they had him ranked until right before signing day. He was ranked in the high 300s. What? The guy played right next to Stoney at IMG, and sometimes he would get the double team. Sometimes it was Stoney getting him. Whoever wasn't getting him was destroying the other side. How you miss him and see David Stone, I don't understand it. Doesn't matter. Yeah, it's 100% objective. Yeah. Yeah. A lot of people do. I think right now Jaden is probably a little more. He's more comfortable in that weight and his size so far. But Stoney looked good the other day. No, I wouldn't have a problem with that. Again, I think that you have some room at tight end to find out if he's that guy. H-back, tight end, however you want to call it. Right. I think you got room. Hey, dude, I said this the other day. The best thing about his film from high school was him dogging everybody carrying the football. You know, he was okay as a defender, but he was a safety. But it didn't wow me like what the other stuff that he did, for sure. I agree. Well, yeah, well, he's 6'6". Jaden's not. You know, again, measurables is what it is. But you can't, I mean, how are you not going to grade a guy that high? If you watch his film, and we watched games a lot because we knew Stoney. So anytime IMG was on TV, I saw probably at least 7 or 8 of their games last year. And they were unstoppable, you know? So when you see that, and I don't care about what On3 or anybody else said about him. I'm just saying I'm super glad that Oklahoma saw it and they brought him with them, you know? And thank God for David Stone for recruiting him too. Cannot measure heart, cannot measure what you see on the field. What you see on the field goes a lot further, particularly at a place like IMG. They play a national schedule. They're not playing a bunch of, even in a state like Texas, you're going to go up against some guys that are a complete mismatch for you. Everybody was still a mismatch for these guys, period, no matter who they played. So it is what it is. Yeah. Yeah. Well, again, thank God for David Stone, because I think Texas was in a good position to get him until Stoney was pretty ragged on him about it. Like, nah, that ain't it. Yeah. And Pro Football Focus, same thing. Yes, absolutely. They're looking at things that we aren't, right? Yeah. That's what I'm saying. When you start looking at what Kanak was, he was so good on the offensive side, man. He's athletically, he is a freak, a complete freak. Yeah. I thought we would have too. Running back, possibly, yeah, or something to where he was, because he ran the ball he ran the ball angry. I loved watching that. I'd love that. Yeah. It was nice that they got both. It really, along with Nigel Smith, that is what made it. And Danny Okoye too. Look, 5 blue chip guys on the defensive line. That's the best defensive line class in OU history, without a doubt. I would argue that it's the best defensive haul in OU history. I would. We could have that argument. But I think when all said and done, you start looking at some of the guys they got. Jaden Hardy, he looked good the other day. Powers looked really good the other day. Boganowski looked like a freaking unbelievable. He was killing everybody. Nigel's the man. There's a reason why Larry Johnson was on him for 2 years before he committed. He gave him an offer before Oklahoma did. Nigel's the man. He does his game to me looks a lot like Myles Garrett. That's the comp that I always come up with on the way he plays. And he's versatile. He can move inside or out. I think he'd also be a very good defensive end and edge guy. I think that would and may end up be where he ends up. I don't know that he's ever going to stack on that same amount of weight. I don't think he's ever going to stack on that amount of weight. Yeah, dude. Yeah. And here's something about it, Des. When you start looking at some of these guys, watch them play basketball. Watch them play something other than the sport we're talking about that they're getting recruited in. This is a guy that was explosive. Two-hand, go up, throw it down, no problem. Catch it, one pivot, one step, and boom, two hands it. Coming off of, not with any kind of movement. We're talking drop step, boom, explosive power. And he ate everybody alive up there. He's that guy. And he works his ass off, man, just the same way. There's a lot of guys. Hey, look, there's a lot of people that Aaron Donald loved him whenever he was out there working at Pitt. Loved him. So Well, drop stepping, yeah, you're 260, 270, and you're just throwing it down. Like, I mean, if you watch these guys play other sports, then you can tell what kind of athlete they are. And I think that there's probably, he needs more polish. So do the other guys, Danny Okoye is completely underrated. They talk about what league he played in whenever he was in high school because of COVID and all that other stuff. He won the freaking, at the Alabama camp, he was MVP right away. I mean, immediately, Nick Saban had never seen him before. He offered him on the spot. Immediately wanted him. And they're talking about where he played in high school. I'd look at what coaches like Nick Saban, they want him right now. Okay. Same goes with Venables. The guy's freaking put unbelievable defenses on the field for 20 freaking years. Guys, amazing defenses and dudes that ended up, top 10 picks in the league, and he don't know what the hell he's looking at? The fuck are we thinking? Yeah. You like the hat? I like this hat too. You can get one on our Fanatics shop, man. You get them right there. It's hofmedia.us/fanatics. You can go on there, get the greatest deals. Helps out the program. Jump on there and check it out. Yeah. Bro. And you talk about a guy that moves fast, and I mean, he just hits with, Okoye was a bad dude, bro. Just stop on. I'm sure I missed some stuff, but I think Kanak slanders a little much. He flashed and made some great plays. One mistake on a deep middle third coverage in attempt at 2. Yeah, I'm not slandering him, man. I'm telling you what, it doesn't sound like to me. What I would say, this is kind of the last I even feel like we have to say about it. But if I think that if Dusty was saying that on the air and I heard it, and we all heard it, then he probably heard that in the building, right? It's not like it was the first time it's been said around him or the first time that he's been around and seen something that he didn't like. He's a Venables guy, so it probably came from somewhere. Yeah. No, I agree with that. And there's that guy that what's the guy's name that always comes in here from LSU? He was saying the same thing about a lot of those guys that they don't shoot them up the rankings or whatever because they end up staying in Louisiana, right? But it's like I was saying the other day, a lot of people that think that LSU is just going to be trash this year because their defense wasn't great last year. First of all, they have a really good they recruit very well there. Number 2, but expecting that their offense is not going to be what it was a year ago. Now, maybe it isn't because they do have a new offensive coordinator, but how many guys have to go in the first round of the freaking draft from a receiver position before you believe that they're going to have another one of those guys like they had this year in Neighbors? They got a factory of them down there in Louisiana. They do. You may not have heard of them yet, but something tells me they've got another 2 or 3 of those guys somewhere down there. I'm not counting LSU out of shit. I'm just not. Yeah, probably so. No, okay. If the light comes on. Listen, I hope he does. Look, if they decide to keep him, I'm fine with that. That's up to. But I also would say if he's not going to play and he's going into his junior year and they just are going to play him enough in certain situations to burn a red shirt or whatever, I think it's not fair to him on that end either, because if he goes to a situation where it's not as overwhelming, I don't know. I mean, Kleiman's defenses have always been pretty good. Maybe that would be a good place for him. I don't know that it's that, dude. Because Stutzman likes his fun too, and he takes it serious. I don't think it's that as tight as they are. I think he's literally, his brain is full of, what am I going to do? You know when you get scared out of sleep sometimes, you're sleeping, you get scared and you don't really know how to handle whatever it is that you just popped up out of. That's what he looks like out there. Completely indecisive and like he just got scared out of sleeping. He doesn't know what to think and he just loses it. It doesn't help. And again, it doesn't help that Brent Venables' defenses, that there's a lot of little intricate things that you have to do right. And Danny's first year in that defense was not good. He made a lot of tackles. And Jaren made a lot of tackles the other day. He had 5. Danny made a lot of tackles, but remember the Baylor game? Overhead view. You're looking at both of those gaps, and he's in the same gap as the other linebacker. And then right down the middle, where he should have been, the guy scores. They lose the game. If you're not in the right place in this defense, you're no help. Period. And again, I don't think that Dusty just said it out of his ass. I don't. I just don't think it came from nowhere. Yeah. They shouldn't. Yeah, no. They shouldn't continue to camp for recruitment. No. And let me just say this. You think that coaches, I think some of them care because it helps them in certain, if you're getting all these guys, and let's say you're Nick Saban, or you're Kirby Smart, or you're Ohio State, and they aren't doing real well on defense at the time. That was a couple of years back, right? You want to make sure that all these guys you continue to get those guys by getting those guys. So if your ranking is way up there all the time, and Ohio State's is, let's use Ohio State as an example, or Ohio State and A&M for an example, because A&M hasn't done shit. They've been close a couple of times, but they haven't really done anything. And yet they're always way up there at the top. I could say the same for Texas, Des. They're always way up at the top. What have they done? Up until this past year, they hadn't won a freaking conference title in 14 years. It is what it is. So when you start looking at that, when they get these guys, though, and they're number one, remember it pissed Nick Saban off something fierce that A&M got that recruiting class that was the best in history, quote unquote. And so he starts throwing Jimbo and them under the bus. Everybody knew that they paid all that damn money. Everybody knew that, right? Or that supposedly they promised all that money anyway. But if you get those guys year after year, and it pissed Saban off that he had the number 2 class instead of number 1. So what do? The next year they get 9 5-star guys. 9. That's unheard of. Unheard of. So if they're getting those guys, then they'll keep getting them. And look, whether or not that's always that way or not, I think some guys you can tell they're a freaking 5-star. The real 5-stars, the consensus 5-star guys, it ain't hard to see why. And the one thing I would say is, when it comes to the 5-star guys, the ones that usually are correct is always on the D-line. Those are the easiest guys to scout because most of it is on pure athleticism, size, strength, and speed. The measurable stuff. The stuff you can see. With an offensive lineman, yeah, size is part of it, but there's a lot more to it. And a lot of these guys that don't get taught the right way when they get to college or whatever it is, maybe, but that is definitely the hardest position group to get right. There's numbers out there. I had that one video that I did back there that there was a guy that did one. They had done all this research on like the last 15, 20 years and what position group was most likely to become a first rounder or or even play in the NFL. Defensive line, they got that right on the, defensive tackles, defensive ends. They got that right 55, 56% of the time, something like that. Offensive lineman was like 6% of the time. So it's different. What the fuck? All right. I'm done talking about that shit. Damonic Williams. Don't know what's going to happen there. He got out of town without committing, though, or signing. So it's a concern, right? It's a concern. Texas is going to give him a bag or what? I think that sounds like that's what's happening right now. And Texas needs him probably more than Oklahoma does. Probably more than Oklahoma does. I don't know about what you guys saw the other day, aside from Arch Manning looking like Peyton Manning circa 1997. But they didn't look good. They didn't tackle well, and their secondary was shit. And, I mean, we're talking about a secondary that a year ago was 94th or so in pass yards allowed. Those guys that were running down the field and getting hit by those Arch Manning passes. Meanwhile, Quinn Ewers throws a pick six to a defensive lineman. Something ain't looking good down there in Austin there, Des. I don't know if you're still here, but yeah, him leaving Norman is not good. I think that really, because if it turns into a bidding war, what's not going to happen. They're not going to do that at Oklahoma. They're not. Yeah, I don't give a shit. I was just fucking around. I'm just saying, though, wouldn't be a game without him throwing a pick to a defensive lineman. And I'm wondering if he ended up in I'm wondering if he had to go see his counselor after the game, because he was having to talk about Arch Manning before the game was ever over on the sideline. I watched that. Poor little old dude. I think that expecting him to be a middle linebacker could be too much. Maybe move him to an outside linebacker position, something that he doesn't have to think too hard. Maybe what K. Chris said, try him at edge. Mm-hmm. Yeah, there were. Yeah, there were. Hey, guys, but the one that was running wide open is stupid fast and was being guarded by Jaren Kanak. Oh man, I'm such an ass. I can't help it. Yeah, I would agree there, Big. I would agree there. I get you. Wanted to get to the league. Wanted to get league ready. Oh, he still has a shot. Look, the guy that they have, the new D-line coach, Des, tell me what his name was. I forget. He's the kid he was from Miami, right? And he was already coaching in the league. So he kind of knows. I would say Todd Bates has done a great job as a defensive line coach, though. We know that. He would definitely get ready. I think it's an unknown situation there at Texas. And to me, I don't think that they've done a great job there. I don't think that they've done a great job. Their secondary was the weakest part of their game last year. They were good on the D-line. And I think that edge rush-wise, they look really good. The tackle position is where I would be concerned. And even on the edge, they're pretty young there, right? So you wonder if they're going to be completely ready. But this is the reason that I question Texas this year has a lot less to do with the offense than what I feel like is going on defense over there. I think PK's got his hands full. Now, I was trying to remember what his name was, but he was. I know he was already a D-line guy and had played in the league as well, so it's not like he shouldn't be able to coach him up. That being said, so did Todd Bates. He played at Alabama. He played in the league. He's had 4 first round D-line picks so far, 4 or 5. He knows what he's doing too. Everybody's going to find out what Burks is all about. That guy's unbelievable. And if Andrell Anthony still has his speed when he gets back, plus you've got, Brennan Thompson with his speed, and you've got big guys like Gibson and Nick Six. Look, Nick is, he didn't play the other day either. They're good there. Kenny Baker, right? Kenny Baker. That's what I remember his name. But how many? So I know you said, Quinn, you gave the right answer, Des. How long until a lot of the people in this fan base are screaming for Arch? That's the question. No, he's not. Dude, he was fine last year with us. He caught more footballs as a Sooner than he did there in Texas, bro. That's all I'm going to say. You can talk shit about Brennan. Don't do that. Don't do that. It just sounds like sour grapes, Des. It's just sour grapes. He definitely did that. They're not going to scream for Arch if they lose to OU. I would think that they would scream for Arch if he misses a freaking pass. We've heard a lot of this shit already. I guess the question would be is if he's ready or not. We're going to find out about whether Arch is ready probably because of the fact that you haven't seen Quinn be healthy a full season. He's been – oh, you mean they are? Okay, yeah. Well, for sure. Yeah, for sure. I think it'll take less. Yep. I think so. What's up there, legend? What's up there? Sooner Cowboys, my man. Spencer, they're about to have a Spencer Caleb deal. All right, and guys, I don't know how many people have been in here and listened or seen this stuff on Twitter where everybody's throwing a shit fit about what Caleb Williams supposedly said and how he was mad at Oklahoma. That's not what he said. The guy that put that shit on Twitter is a moron, apparently, because he said he was pissed at Oklahoma. He said he was pissed at Lincoln for not starting him over Spencer Rattler. I know it's easy to hate on Caleb right now. Don't waste your energy on that one. He didn't say shit about OU. He didn't. I don't think that's the case. I don't think that's the case. I think if Jackson misses time, then there's a kid that'll be just fine. Hawkins is that guy. He's that guy. I think if Jackson misses time, it's one of those situations where you may not see him again because Hawkins is that guy. He has been. He absolutely has been. Guys, absolutely has been. He was loving on him when he decided to leave, when he said he was leaving. He was remember right before the Red River game, he was, telling him good luck and talking all that Texas shit. He did. He hasn't been ugly about OU one time. His dad had that shit to say. That was where Mike Farrell didn't exactly tell the truth there. A lot of the stuff that's been taken, that has been bullshit, that what he said or didn't say. And it's, people trying to make shit up so that, because they know Oklahoma fans are going to throw a shit fit about it. because they do. You know, they love it. They love to get freaking wound up at somebody and something. You know, Hawkins is the man. Hawkins is the man. You know, and what PG said, I'm gonna take exception to that. What he said last night, that he'd rather see Hawkins red shirt this year. I don't think. First off, I don't see it happening. Number two, I think you got to find a way to have him involved in the game at certain times. You know, there should be some kind of package for Michael Hawkins. He's that guy. Wait and see, Dez. Wait and see, brother. He did. Not wrong. You're not wrong. He's never been. And when all that stuff came up from Mike Farrell, he was like, "You want to take that back?" Because I never said anything about Oklahoma. How can you blame me for going with Lincoln? He went to OU to play for Lincoln, and Lincoln didn't even want him. He was going to freaking walk on anyway, he said. Tells you a little bit about the guys that Lincoln actually recruits. No, Thompson's fine. And yes, a lot of depth there. Yeah. I think Zerberg is probably going to be pretty good too. And then look, Casey Thompson in an emergency situation, I mean, he's not my favorite choice, but I think if you have an injury during a game where you need him to go in and pick up the offense right now and be able to do something, maybe if you give him a week to get ready, it's going to be Hawkins, though. I think that's my belief is that it'll be Hawkins. Casey's got a good arm, man. That's one thing I'll say about him. He's got a nice arm. He looked really good in that Red River game until he got hurt. Yeah, absolutely. I agree. I think Bo Davis, I think that Texas made a big mistake letting him get out of town. Mike, thanks for coming in. I think they made a big mistake letting Bo get out of town. And Blake Baker, I mean, people want to talk about the Missouri offense. The only reason Missouri won 11 games last year was because of that defense. And Blake, and who was the other guy from there? There was 2 or 3 guys that came from that defense, that defensive staff that went to LSU. Look, I suspect that they'll be fine on defense. And I was just saying, when it comes to receivers, you know, there's been people that have questioned whether or not Nussmeier is good enough, plus having to replacing Nussmeier and Neighbors. Yeah, I get it. Or replacing Jane Daniels and Neighbors. I get that, except that LSU just churns those guys out like they make them in a factory anyway when it comes to the receiver room. Hey, 4-star booty. So did. Hey, in our official merchandise store, there is a 4-star booty hat and t-shirt if you would like to jump in there and grab one. HOFmedia.us/pod-merch. Also, for you golfers out there, you should definitely jump on and check out our Mailrig partnership website, mailrig.com/JW_HOF. Unbelievable prices, amazing gear there. So if you guys are golfers or even just like golf polos, shorts, stuff like that for the summertime, you should definitely get on there and check that out. If you have not at least given a look to Mint Mobile, I know you have a phone. I know you have a smartphone. You should be looking into doing that. $15 a month for unlimited talk, text, and data on the biggest 5G network in the country. Mint Mobile is unbelievable. I switched from Verizon. There's been zero difference in my service, and I don't live in the biggest area of the country right now with the most towers around. It's been great. $15 a month. After those initial 3 months, it would become $30 a month for unlimited everything. What do you pay for everything now? My Verizon was like $120 for one phone. $30, $120. It's worth it to try it out. $45 for the first 3 months. Jump on there and check that out. mailreg.com/JW_HOF. And then trymintmobile.com/HOF. Sorry, trymintmobile.com/HOF. And $15 a month, guys. You can bring your own phone, do it all online. No salespeople, none of that. It's all good. All right. Who is the first? Hey, bud. What's up with that? Who's the first what? Who's the first what? Big Bog. All right. The number one, who's the number or the biggest 5G network? It's on the T-Mobile, T-Mobile network. So they're definitely the biggest 5G network in the country. Dad's first. Oh, you were talking about Boganowski. Yeah, I actually talked to that guy the other night too on Twitter a little bit. He went to New Mexico State and he played with the guy that played quarterback with me in high school. So we had to talk for a few minutes. He's awesome, man. Big Mike Boganowski. Cool guy. I see that. All right, what else we got? Jerry and Hatchet, Damonic Williams. I think we're about out of stuff to talk about here. Let me know what you guys think on a lot of this stuff. I mean, again, I just was, wanting to kind of go back through some of this stuff for the weekend, give me a chance to bust on Texas just a little bit. It's going to be fun. I still believe that I don't understand why you would think that they are a favorite to win anything this year, because they're not. I just don't see it, man. Just don't see it. Is that you? Big Bog, this is well, welcome into the show, man. It's good to see you. Hey, man, thank you. Glad you're here. Lobo suck. Let's say that. Lobo suck. Can't spell Lobo without L, he said the other night on Twitter. Well, we'll give it a second to say hello to him then too. That's awesome, man. He does play a little bit like that. Hey, man, he was knocking people out like he was Ronnie Lott. I'll give you that. About killed old Bauer. Good stuff, man. Good stuff. Hey, man, I tell you what, if you want to come on the show, we'd love to have you on one of these times. I'll hit you up on Twitter and we'll talk about it. But if you want to jump on one of the shows one of these nights, we'd be happy to have you and talk to you a little bit about it. Thank you, man. Appreciate that. If you'd like to come on, let me know. It'd be fun. Yeah, definitely. Hey, look, they look really good, though. I think there's a lot to be excited about. You can't get too hyped up about a spring game one way or the other, right? You're going to see some good things. You're going to see some bad things. I was excited about not just Boganowski, but the other guys in that defensive secondary that are freshmen and redshirt freshmen. I think that secondary is rounding into one of the best in the country already as it is. The front seven also looked really good. This defense has an opportunity to be elite. Okay. It has an opportunity to be elite. We're going to find out. But if they can get one of these guys, the kid from Louisville or Williams, I think it's going to be a good thing. They just need it's depth is the only thing they're really looking for, right? I still believe that you probably, whatever the kid's name was from Indiana, I'm doubting he chooses Auburn over Oklahoma if he didn't have something in his head that they pretty much were leaning towards somebody, or somebody was already had maybe given a silent commitment, something like that. So those things come up. So whether or not Williams, maybe he's in play, maybe he's not, I think you're going to get one of those guys. They'll find somebody. And really what you're looking for is a little bit of depth. You got to admit, Devon Sears looked really good the other day. I've said already, Terry has already looked good. He looks good. Last year, really liked what we saw out of G-Baby the other day. And then, hey, man, the freshman guys look good. They just did, So excited to see kind of what ends up happening there. But, yeah, just going a little bit early today. I just wanted to jump on here and see what's up. Maybe we'll start going on a Monday early streams or something like that from now on. And then do our regular national show on Tuesday nights like we always do. where we talk about a little bit of everything. We, of course, will be back on tomorrow night, 8:30 Eastern time, right here on on Hall of Fame College Football with Jason and the Coach at CFB-Pod on YouTube. You can also find us on Twitter as well. It's oh man, I don't even remember my Twitter handle. I think I changed it recently, so I need to make sure what that is before I say that. Yeah, it's JW_HOF as well. So you can find me there on Twitter if you don't already follow me there. But yeah, get out there, check us out, man. We're excited about having everybody in here. Yeah, look, as far as the Jaren Kanak, the Kanak stuff goes, I'm not trying to kick the guy out of town. I'm telling you what we're seeing and what we've been seeing and what looks like could be going on, right? Like it's what could be happening behind the scenes. We don't know what happens in those locker rooms. It sounds to me like if Dusty Dvoracek is saying that stuff on the air, and I know it was a hot mic, but he said it, that's probably coming from somewhere else. It's not just him saying it just because he's saying it, guys. So for in his defense, I mean, I know a lot of people might be a little pissed at Dusty right now for saying that. I understand, but sounds like it was something he heard, and he was kind of saying that to his broadcast partners there. I think that's what was going on. In the end, I want what's best for this football team. There's a lot of competition on that side of the football at every position. Can't blame those guys if they do decide to go. But again, it is what it is. Excited yeah, man, we're still 120 something days away. Hopefully it goes fast. We've got the summer, we've got the fall to get ready, but it's going to be a lot of fun this year. I'm excited about Oklahoma and what they're probably going to do, what I feel like they're going to do in the SEC. And but yeah, we'll see kind of how everything goes. Thanks a lot, everybody, for coming in. Mr. Boganowski, thank you, sir, for coming in. Great to see everybody in here. Cozy Vaughn, Sooner Legend Podcast, JB, Neilio, thanks for coming in. Stink as well. Chicken, all you guys that have been here. Let's see. Mark Schambauer. Let me say what's up to everybody that was in here. Ryman Lemon, of course. Jonathan Fazekas. Our boy Dez, the Texas Dez. Satterfield, Prima. All you guys that have shown up in here. Let's see. Who else do we have? I know we've had Mars was in here as well. Factors. All you guys, thanks a lot for coming in. We will see you all on the next one.